Hi there, I'm Sharad. Every week we study the market moves and bring it as a market wrap up. And I'm also supported by my analyst Aman. So, we're covering the third week of April. Let's look at the numbers, very basic numbers. Nifty down by 1.65% to close at 22,147 with 10 advances and 40 declines. In the last week, we had indicated the markets have turned bearish, primarily because of US inflation data, and we had anticipated that the markets will test 22,000, and it did test 22,000. What is also important is that the bearish trend continues, although the market rebound from 22,000 to close at 22,147. We feel that the bearish trend will continue. The markets will be range bound in between 22,100 to 22,400, but it might again test 22,000, and it might go down to 21,800 during this week, the coming week. What we also saw was the mid cap was down by 3.23%, and FIs sold for 11,867 crores and DIs bought 9,335 crores, 9,035 crores. What's also important is that FIs not only sold equity, they also sold the debt, which means that there is net outflow of money from India during this week from the FIs perspective. Both the debt has been sold as well as the equity has been sold. So FIs are cutting positions on an Indian market. That's clearly visible. From a sector perspective, what we saw was that this week was definitely not so great, with IT down by 4.7%, primarily because of Infosys. Banks down by 2.09%, pharma down by another 2%, and realty down by 2.75%. Not much silver lining in a week which saw a lot of volatility and the bears taking over. So, overall, not a great week for Nifty, but definitely from what we have seen in the last 1 year, this volatility is anticipated, and you can assume that the coming weeks will definitely see a little bit more volatility. As part of every week, we cover one quote from some very successful investor, and many a times we get Warren Buffett. So over here, there is a quote from him: if you have more than 120 or 130 IQ points, you can afford to give the rest away. You don't need extraordinary intelligence to succeed as an investor. What he's trying to point at most probably is that you need to do your basics correct, both at the qualitative front and the quantitative front. And what's more important is that you should be able to sit back and have patience to see your money grow rather than try to do too many things, because a person who has too much of an IQ will always be trying to think, how do I make more money by doing more? But the fundamental point is that you need to have basics correct and then ability to hold on to your stocks. That's pretty much what Warren Buffett lives by, and that's to a certain extent what this particular quote is indicating, and that's what we are interpreting out of it. But you're free to make your own choices based on the principles and fundamentals that are there. Now, in terms of the news this week, as I mentioned, the first one being the fact that Infosys results were out. The profits did grow by a good margin, but overall revenue numbers were not great. So it definitely fell short of expectations. The more important point is the fact that the FY25 guidance is fairly weak, and the revenue growth is anticipated to be around 1 to 3%, which made the stock fall by 5.8%. That's a very, very high number. So Infosys definitely taking a beating and bringing down the IT index as well as the overall index down. Wipro also not showing very good results with a decline of 6.6% in revenue, profit down by 8%. So overall guidance also from the management not on the positive side, making Wipro another soft one on the markets during this week. HDFC AMC results had stellar results with 28.5% up in revenue and profits by a whooping 43.8%. The company declared a final dividend of rupees 70 per share, so definitely a lot of promise seen over here. This week we'll get a lot many more results, and we'll be bringing in insights in the next week's cycle on this particular news bulletin. Overall, the Indian investors have shown caution, and as we saw, FI has also exited. So the effect of US inflation and the uncertainty of election is building up, and we believe that the markets will remain volatile and the trends might start tending towards more bearish. And as I mentioned, it might test 21,800 during this week. While it remains range bound mostly in between 22,100 to 22,400. Now internationally, the first point being that the S&P also continued its drop with losing 3%, and if you look at Nasdaq, it lost 6%, primarily because of the fact that the inflation data has not been on the as per the expectation in US, and there is no clear direction on the Fed rate cuts. Moreover, the Middle East worries caused a lot of uncertainty with Israel and Iran taking pot shots at each other, and if it can flare up into a major crisis. Nobody knows that, resulting in oil prices also fluctuating. Tech stocks, as I mentioned, Nasdaq had a major fall. Tech stocks fell by 7.3% because of high interest rates and economic uncertainty, definitely having an impact that we saw on Indian IT companies too. Netflix announced the fact that they're not going to report the subscriber tally, thereby leading the stock to fall by 9% on Friday. That's a massive drop on the stock. And the airline stocks did grow by 6.8% because of the positive future outlook. So that was pretty much the news wrap up from the economic world during this week. Quickly, we will turn over to our last section, in which we see on which stocks are finding strength in their numbers. And when we say which stocks are finding strength in their numbers, what we mean to say is that we run algorithms to find out stocks which on a weekly level or on a daily level have closed at higher lows, and at the same time they've shown volumes when the price has turned positive. So here is a list of all the stocks which had higher lows during this week. When I say higher lows, obviously what I mean to say is that they took support on the lower side at higher numbers. So even the week prior to this week, if it was the lowest was X, then the week prior to that was slightly less than X. So it is always taking support at higher numbers. So this is the list, and what we believe, or what are the stocks that we might try to actually take a position on during this week based upon the further fundamental analysis that we take on this, are following. CDSL is something which we had built positions earlier, but given that the overall 7-day trend, despite having strong support and the volume trend is not being very positive, we're not building position over here. We had taken a position on Exide, but it's still not starting to show a lot of run up over here. But IDFC definitely looks promising, so that's something which we want to take position. National Aluminium is another one. We already have position over here, but we want to build further based upon what the charts are indicating over here. And of all the others, at least I am not seeing a lot of positivity over here other than this in this tower. So primarily this is in this tower is one stock that we are trying to build. We'll build position. The second one, as I mentioned, was Exide. We have already indicated, but we're not building. National Aluminium is the other one that we will try to build position on. So those are the two that we are going to bet upon based upon what we are seeing. And we also run this on a daily basis. So when I'm saying these two, these stocks have also come up in the list on a daily basis in the last few days on the support that it takes on a daily basis. So these are two that we'll build upon. We take small positions and then keep on building positions if we see a positive run. That brings us to the wrap up of this week. I'll see you in the next week, and hopefully we have a good next week. And stay invested and invest with confidence using numbers and qualitative data. Bye. I'll see you in the next one.